So I went to Paul Draper's gig at King Tuts the other night. So the footage you're seeing on the screen, you should be seeing on the screen, is footage that I took just with a camera phone. So it's not the best quality, but it's just nice to have something to look at, to give you a kind of idea of the atmosphere. For those that don't know, Paul Draper was the frontman of late 90s, early 2000 band Mansun, not to be confused with Marilyn Manson or Hanson, but around about the same time. Some journalists tagged them as a Britpop band. I don't feel that is wholly accurate. They were of that era, but seemed to be doing their own thing, and while Britpop was exploding around them. Their biggest hits were Wide Open Space from debut album Attack of the Grey Lantern and I Can Only Disappoint You, which I believe Paul Oakenfold remixed from their third album, Little Kicks. There was a fourth album that came out after the split up. I've never really listened to that much, so I can't comment on that. But last night was a celebration of their second album, Six. At the time, it got them a lot of critical acclaim. It's a firm fan favourite with many of the superfan cult following, and there is a superfan cult following, no doubt about it. The album itself is really bizarre in its structure. It's unique in its implementation, and it has a marmite effect on a lot of people, whether either you love it or you hate it. For me, I loved it. It was bold, daring, and unlike anything I'd heard before. Not that I'd heard that much, I was still a kid. This is back in 1999, so I was still at school. But it was a sort of experimental prog rock with epic builds, multiple changes of pace, not just from song to song, but within each song, it could sometimes feel like you'd listened to an entire EP, and yet you check and you're still listening to the same song. The lyrics always grabbed me, felt quite deep. The falsetto vocal, which makes it hard for the likes of me to sing along to. And it was obviously a good band of musicians behind it. It was solid, groundbreaking musicianship. I never saw Mansun live myself and had long given up on seeing this album, Six, performed live. It's a classic, criminally overlooked since the band split up in 2003. You didn't really hear people mentioning Mansun that much, and after they broke up, they all seemed to just go and do their own things. Paul seemed to vanish completely until he dropped a debut solo record called Spooky Action in 2017, which he followed up recently with another album called Cult Leader Tactics. And like I said, there is a cult following for Mansun online, so I think that'll be why the Cult Leader Tactics name is what it is. Now, this gig at King Tuts was meant to be 45 minutes of solo material, followed by an interval, and then they're going to play the Mansun album Six from start to finish. I don't think they played the full 45 minutes. I would say it was more like half an hour of solo material. The show was sold out months ago, so the venue was jam-packed, and by the time we got there, we struggled to get a good view of what was happening on stage. Now, I've yet to properly connect with either of the solo records. I've only heard bits and bobs. So between that and my view of the stage, I can't really comment. I don't really want to comment on if the songs were done justice live or not, because I'm not really that sure. I didn't get right in amongst it, and I'm not that familiar with the work. But we made a vow that at the interval, as people went out for a smoke and that we would get ourselves a better position. And King Tuts, if you don't know, is Glasgow's most legendary venues. It's Oasis were signed there. It's what I think is people always tell you. It's hard to mention King Tuts without someone saying, "Do you know Oasis were signed there?" But yeah, they were signed there. In fact, my band when we played King Tuts, that's the only time I've ever got a pat in the back from people I grew up with. They were like, "Wow, you're playing King Tuts. Did you know Oasis were signed there?" And I did know Oasis were signed there. But it's a cracking wee venue. Sounds good, staff are friendly, and tonight's crowd are mostly male, mid-30s upwards, super fans of Mansun, and Paul Draper. I know when you went out outside for a smoke, well, I was on the vape, but when you went out for a smoke, I did actually smoke one cigarette, maybe two, but when you go outside for a smoke, I was meeting lots of people for the first time, and they were just full of people, real music fans, sharing stories of the back catalogue and what it means for them to see it live. We're all really excited about it. I was with my brother, who's a massive fan of Mansun as well, and also my mate Brendan, who wasn't as familiar with it. He was only familiar with, the singles like Wide Open Space and stuff, but he was interested in seeing it. So anyway, we're talking to people, and everyone's excited because it's a brilliant album. So anyway, the gig starts. Gets off to a really good start. Brilliant start, I would say. The Glorious Six, the title track from the album, as the opener, sounding great. Negative and Shotgun, they first three, and it's just looking great. Paul can still hit some of those high notes when he really wants to, and it's just difficult stuff to sing, difficult stuff to play, but the band and Paul are doing a great job. The Glasgow crowd are singing back most of the words. They're up for it, and I don't know if these are... Yeah, the band, great. I don't know if these are regular musicians or session musicians, but they're changing the pace quickly, and they're doing a great job of performing one of the most technically difficult albums of the 90s. They're doing it well, almost effortlessly at times. There's the odd mistake. They're trying to recapture the album as it was in the studio, so of course there's going to be a few mistakes or a few things that sound a little bit different, but that doesn't bother me. At the end of the day, I'm wanting to see the songs played from start to finish, but I don't lose sight of the fact that it's a live gig, and if I really wanted to listen to the actual record, I would just put it on in the house. So I don't mind it sounding a little bit different from the record. I think it's to be expected, and that's certainly not going to be a criticism I'm going to aim at anyone, because the studios, that was in the 90s as well. They probably had a massive budget, bunch of producers, and yeah, you can't recreate that sound live, no matter who you are. So yeah, we'll stay away from it. So there was a couple of little bits that sounded a bit off. I think a couple of the songs are a bit shorter, but in general, it's doing well. But I think somewhere around the halfway mark, I think there was just a few moments where it was like the instrumentals were maybe going on a bit longer, and you start to become more and more aware of the fact that Paul Draper is barely moving. He's got an acoustic guitar on stage, so he's in the front of the stage with an acoustic guitar that he never seems to use. I mean, I didn't see him play anything, I don't think, at all, the whole time. So I'm not sure if he's supposed to be playing stuff or he's just wearing it as a prop, which the latter could be two reasons. It could be an artistic statement, or it could be more like a force field to give some space, a wide open space, but give some space between himself and the audience. So maybe it's like wearing like a shield. Maybe you're nervous and you just want something for your hands and something like that. I'm not sure, but between that and he's reading words from an iPad now, and I've seen some people criticising him for reading words from an iPad, and I don't really have any major issue with this. I mean, this album's 24, 25 years old. I think it's unreasonable for anyone to still have those songs memorised, especially when they've not performed them in that long. I mean, although I suppose the middle ground is that I would expected that after multiple rehearsals and already a couple of tour dates under their belt, I think there was maybe 2 or 3 gigs before this, I would expect the iPad with the lyrics to be more of a reminder of how to start songs rather than practically the only thing that was catching his gaze. So he was just sort of staring at the iPad, which is fine when he's actually reading the songs and performing, because he's, at times he's doing some incredible vocal work, and he's, that probably takes a lot of concentration. But when it's the instrumental bits, it can get a bit off-putting, because he was sort of very still, focused on the iPad, sort of fiddling with his in-ears and focused on the microphone in front of him. And I'm hoping it's concentration rather than nerves or a lack of wanting to be there. I've seen Some people say that it could be drink or drug related or mental health, or that he's going through a bad time with legal issues. And I don't want to comment on any of that because I don't know the guy and I don't know any of the background to what's going on in his life. So I'm not going to presume or assume or anything like that. But it was just during, I think it was Legacy, I felt like there was a part of me that wasn't sure if this guy was all right or whether he should be putting himself through the pressure of playing this album. So yeah, something just sounded and looked off, and like Legacy just sounded a bit too different from the record. That was the only one that I thought it sounds really different, and it just sounded a bit off. And you know, with the crowd are singing, you know, than I had before. So the crowd are all singing that bit, and Paul tried to get the rest of the crowd to sing more, and it just went a wee bit off. It just went a wee bit off. I think it's just because Glasgow crowds are quite notoriously in fine voice, they like to sing. So maybe I think he was trying to get the crowd to sing the more bit, but they're already singing the other bit. So yeah, I think that could just be a lack of communication between the stage and the crowd. And as for the iPad, it's not a memory test. Let's not judge people on their memory. But this wasn't all the way through. It wasn't like it started well and then dipped and then stayed dipped. There was some great parts in the second half of the show, or the final third. My personal highlight was Special, Blowing It, Delete as Appropriate. It sounded amazing, absolutely brilliant, great energy. You can see the video on, I've actually got it on the You Call That Radio YouTube Shorts on this channel. So if you want to see a wee clip, I'll maybe upload another couple of videos I got from it as well, so that you can see for yourself. There was flashes of genius all over the shop during the gig as well. Moments where the band are all tight and Paul seemed to be pouring his heart out in a far more therapeutic and musically tactile sort of way. And yeah, so there was lots of good bits. And there was just a couple of moments where it's like, is he alright? Is everything okay here? But maybe that is, I don't know, premeditated art. Maybe that was the idea. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. But I'm glad I went. I'm glad I went to the gig. It was I knew going into it, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to see Six played live from start to finish, and I'm coming away thinking that is definitely the last time we'll ever see Six perform live from start to finish. I do not see it ever happening ever again. So if you're a Mansun fan and you love that album, then go and see it on this tour, because I don't see him doing it again. I think, you know, for me, it was a great chance to relive my youth, and you know, there's an element of nostalgia to it, but it's not like normal nostalgia. It's not like collective nostalgia where you're watching a band playing songs that have been played on the radio for the last 20 years. This is songs that probably weren't really heard outside my house or a few of my friends' houses. So it was great. It meant a lot to see these songs played live, and I think some of the songs were never meant to be played live. It was most definitely a studio project in 1998. Now it's finally a live show in 2023. So shout outs to Paul and the band for a memorable night. I think the next time it might be easier to maybe mix up solo material with more of a best of compilation from the Mansun back catalogue, because you've got Attack of the Grey Lantern. The first album is another incredible piece of work. It's more traditional sort of indie rock style, but it's also got some uniqueness going about it. I love it. I like to put it on as a sort of chill out record. Still listen to that one, and it's a lot easier to consume and take it all in than something that's a bit more challenging as Six. So I think if you mixed up some of the best songs from Six, some of the best songs from Attack of the Grey Lantern, and there's a couple from Little Kicks as well, then you would have a really good set list, and it would be probably easier for the band to play, and it would probably hopefully be more enjoyable for Paul to play as well. I mean, that's assuming that Paul wasn't enjoying it, and maybe he was. Maybe this was premeditated art. So yeah, if you're not already a Mansun fan, then maybe catch them the next time around. But if you already love Mansun, then go to the tour and check it out for yourself. And in the meantime, I highly recommend you check out Six or their debut Attack of the Grey Lantern, wherever you get your music from. I think those two albums in particular have aged like a fine wine and blow most of their contemporaries out the water. With hindsight, the albums still are incredible, and yeah. So I just thought I would leave a comment if you think I've been fair or unfair, if you agree with me or you don't. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you see Paul Draper on this tour? Did you enjoy it? Are you going to see Paul Draper on this tour, and did you enjoy it? And I'm also interested in anyone who went to see Attack of the Grey Lantern tour, which I was gutted. I didn't know it was happening. I think it was about 44 or 5 years ago he did the Attack of the Grey Lantern tour. That is something that I would love to see live. So I'd be really interested to know if anyone's seen both and how they both compared with each other. And please remember to like, subscribe. This is You Call That Radio. We do live podcasts, we do events, we do live streams, and we do gig reviews, and just basically anything that's music related or community related we're interested in talking about. So thank you for watching the video, and we'll see you next time. Bye! You Call That Radio, I wouldn't watch it.